Generally, what was different about working on Nightreign versus the base Elden Ring game and anything prior that you've worked on with FromSoftware?
あんまり大きい違いはなく
In general, for Nightreign, we would receive an order for a design. And then if it was myself in charge of that particular concept, that I would iterate on that image that I had, that interpretation of the design. And then I would align and collaborate with the other designers and eventually produce the final design. I think one aspect that changed a lot on Nightreign's design process is that we had a lot of back and forth, a lot of brainstorming in person, actually speaking about these designs rather than just getting text-based feedback.
Can you talk a little bit about the setting of Nightreign and how you approach making it feel distinct from the base Elden Ring game despite it being a spin-off that uses a lot of the same assets?
エルデンリングとは別物に
You didn't want to make it feel too different from Elden Ring as it used that as a base for the design and the setting. One specific direction you did get early on was to create something that first feels and looks familiar and gradually transforms into the unfamiliar and into the unknown. So that was a nice policy or direction that we had to approach with the design. Elden Ring have this sort of very gorgeous painterly feel to a lot of the environments, but we wanted Nightreign to feel like at a glance beautiful, but if you look a little bit deeper, there's something sinister and there's something darker there. Elden Ring maybe there's a lot of bright colors in the scenery and in the skybox and such, but we wanted that also to feel a sense of darkness there as well. So that was another aspect of the design that differed slightly for the order.
One of the locations that really stuck out to me was the Roundtable hold, which is such a familiar location in the base Elden Ring, and it has such an interesting twist in Nightreign. Can you talk a little bit about what went into the new design for the Roundtable hold and what were some of the inspirations behind some of those changes?
ナイトレインってゲームの
So with Nightreign's new kind of speedier, high-tempo gameplay, we wanted the Roundtable this time in particular to feel like somewhere you could relax and take your time and sort of cool off after that intense day-in cycle. So we wanted it to feel, from a design perspective, more cozy, more welcoming, more at home. One inspiration was the Filing Shrine from Dark Souls 1, where you feel sort of more embraced by the atmosphere. You feel like you're coming home after these hardships, after a hard-fought battle, and safe, more importantly than anything. So from a design perspective, we used, techniques such as gentle lighting, a feeling of the surrounding environs, as well as the Roundtable hold itself. And also, while a lot of the place is in ruins, we didn't want it to feel completely destroyed and desolate. We wanted it to feel like it was a safe place to come out to, and that the player could relax and take the time there.
で、追加で言いたかったのは
Another impetus for the design of the Roundtable hold in Nightreign was this feeling of early warning. So a sort of daybreak, dawn, the player setting off on a new adventure. So that came into some of the lighting and architecture choices that changed in Nightreign. And we wanted the player to be aware of this. We wanted to be conscious of this when setting out over this new adventure.
So when the player hits day 3, they're transported to this brand new location that is really unlike any other in Elden Ring, one that is predominantly white, mixed in with a very colorful skybox full of orange, blue, and purple, kind of all mixing together. What's the story behind this environment, and what were some of the inspirations that went into that look?
とディレクターから来ているイメージとしては
So one of the first requests regarding this environment from the director was that it should feel like a sense of finality. We should get this feeling of build-up before a storm. We should also feel like the impression you got from the skybox is that the sky is falling, this calamity is coming to an end. Also, the end of the 3rd day, so we wanted the player to feel this tightness in their chest, like they're getting ready to embark on something greater than themselves. And hopefully this culminated and comes through it in the design.
3日目の空の
To add to that, looking again at the colors and the composition of this guide,
we wanted it to feel like something was about to be born from that chaos. Again, this boss culminates at the end of that 3rd day struggle. We wanted the player to feel this from the use of color and the use of these design elements. And some of the inspirations we took from that were from real-life cosmic events. So something we can't quite understand, something that's very distant and abstracted from regular human perception. But we wanted it to feel just as abstract and just as grandiose, even within the world of Nightreign.
Just speaking personally, what's something that you yourself are very proud of that you worked on in Nightreign?
気に入りの場所は
Personally, one of my favorite areas is actually the area we just talked about, the environment that you had to just before facing that boss at the end of the third day. One of the keywords we found while exploring the design for this environment was this concept of shedding skin. And so this was something that really resonated with me and stuck with me. This idea of personifying the surroundings of the building into something that was once living and has now like since been petrified or gone through these sort of ages of time and gone through this whole process. We wanted players to feel this a sense of age, this old fantasy feel from this particular set piece.
そうですね。そのナイトレインの地変
So generally with these kind of emergent map changes and these kind of terrain effects and events, we wanted it to feel like something immediately fresh and exciting just at a glance. So the player will know there's been an impactful change to the map and to the scenery, and they'll have an immediate idea of what they need to do to progress. So for instance, the volcano, the crater that appears, you need to sort of dig deeper into it, or for the snowfield terrain change, you need to sort of climb up to the top of it, this sort of thing. We wanted this to be immediately effective and change the way the players approach and behave in the map, and just by changing that sense of space.
Personally, as a designer, who are some of your favorite artists, either classic or contemporary? And are there any people that you can point to as being particularly influential on your work?
いろんな表現に対してインスピレーションを受けました。
One of my personal favorite traditional artists, or classical artists, is Beksinski. So I took a lot of inspiration from his various expressions when designing my work. Also with the concept of Nightreign and battling the night boards after this repeated plays, I felt like this is inherent to the game design, and so I wanted this feeling to come through in the designs I created as well. And one sense I got from that was from watching the film Spirited Away from Hayao Miyazaki. This feeling of being unable to go home, unable to escape from a dream. This sort of feeling I wanted to kind of harness while designing these worlds and try to get that through to the player as they play through the game.
1日目のリムベルゾンの
Even when designing Limveld, that initial environment on the first day, I wanted it to feel beautiful, like from an outward glance, it looks beautiful and inviting, but pretty quickly you feel like something's off or something's not quite right. So I think that is a part of the inspiration that we definitely got at force in the design of Nightreign.
So switching to video games really quick, can you just talk about what are some of your favorite video games that may have inspired your work as well?
マルチプレイで
I enjoy Diablo 2 and other such multiplayer games. I enjoy open world survival games where you have to sort of start from scratch and build your own house and things like that. I like a variety of indies, and I've also had a fondness for Legend of Zelda since childhood. Games like Majora's Mask, which have obviously really fun to play, but they sort of have this, again, this sense of repeat play and this kind of sense of darkness to them as well. I think that's stuck with me since childhood.
A lot of designers and artists like to kind of make their own personal imprint on a game. Are there any like secrets or Easter eggs that you managed to sneak in yourself into the game? Or is there maybe anything that you hope players will see and enjoy as they play?
そうですね。ナイトレインっていうのが
Yes. I don't think you'd call this sort of a signature as an artist, but one important thing that I paid attention to while designing Nightreign was this sort of all-encompassing theme of the night and how we go about expressing that. We obviously tried various things, various methods, and Limveld is ultimately a place you keep coming back to as a player. So we thought one way we could express that was these changes throughout the 3-day structure and what players can notice as their journey progresses, and what keeps them coming back and what keeps them interested.
ですなんか夜の難問っていう話の
So to talk a bit more to that theme of light, we had to explore, what light meant to us as designers, like as a base concept. So of course night brings with it some negative connotations, like the dark, fear, the unknown, things like this. So we wanted at first, when the player jumps into this world, to feel those kind of negative feelings to convey quite directly and have that sense of anxiety and that sense of fear of the unknown. So we conveyed this straight up with things like the opposed time limit, the encroaching circle of rain, things like this. We found that light we didn't want it to be fully negative. Again, once players get used to that cycle and they get used to what they're seeing, we wanted it to be more than that. We wanted players to kind of begin to almost yearn for the light, that sort of look forward to this encroaching darkness. Maybe even feel a sense of comfort from, getting used to this rhythm and these aspects. So as the game progresses and the players is kind of getting used to these things, that's definitely an aspect of the design that we wanted to incorporate and be a part of that player experience.